Hi, we're at the same park we were at before.
Yeah.
Not a different time, though.
Things might have progressed for the worse for the world, but we're still sitting here in this park.
Mm-hmm. Only strangers, no fans coming up to us, just strangers.
Yeah, we put the call out. We want you all to swarm us and breathe on us. So we're here to introduce our latest field trip episode, which don't be confused. We recorded this, by the time this comes out, over a month ago before things got really bad.
Yeah.
But we went with Paul Haddad to talk about his book, 10,000 Steps a Day in Los Angeles.
And we found a very beautiful arch building along the river, and we had a great talk with him. And he's a really friendly guy, and he really knows what he's talking about, and he knows a lot about the city. And we were done recording, and I still had more questions.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to talk to.
Yeah.
And also, like we get into, a lot of similar sensibilities to us. And I did, before we recorded with him, one of the walks in the book, and it was so much fun. And you see and learn so many things. And it's a great jumping off point to explore new parts of the city.
Right. And knowing a little bit more about it before you get into it, so you can like cherry pick, and if you get more comfortable, you go like, oh, let's just do all of them, which I hope you do.
With what's going again, we don't know. We recorded this 2 weeks before this will come out, so we don't know what the situation is now. But if they're still allowing us to exit our homes, it's a good time to go outside as long as you are smart and stay at least 6 feet apart from people. I know a lot of people are dying to be outside with gyms closed and all that. It's good to get exercise where you can. Most of these routes are also dog friendly, which is, think of the dogs.
Just think about the dogs for a second.
Now that we have all this time, explore parts of the city you didn't have time for before. But, even as we record this, a lot of the Santa Monica Park, like that stuff's closed. And you don't want to go to the very populated places if you can avoid it. But what you can do, you should definitely get this book.
Or read the book and then dream about it. When you were all released from our homes, head right out and do it.
Once the great scrubbing of the earth has happened, going on walks in times like these, it can be an antidote for your anxiety about this whole thing. Again, as long as you're safe about it, unplug from the bad news for a couple hours. It's good for your health. This will pass, and you're going to want this book when it does pass. And he encourages you, if you want to get the book, check out the website of the indie bookstores that are hurting right now to support them if you can, such like Skylight Books, Book Soup, The Last Bookstore. It's also available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble if you want it that way. His website for latest on his books and goings on is paulhaddadbooks.com. That's PaulHaddadBooks.com. This is a really good book to have in your arsenal of Los Angeles books, I think.
Yeah, for sure. There's enough walks in his book that are picturesque, beautiful stuff to look at.
Well, the one I did was the Silver Lake one, and we went around the reservoir, past the original Disney Studios and the Snow White houses to the La Bianca house, and then like through these other sort of like water treatment plants that were really nice. Like they had like palm trees and lakes. And then we took a side trip and ate at the Red Lion Tavern,
which is one of my favorite places.
And I think the mustard might have been a little bit weird, but that's not going to stop me from going back there.
They might be German, but they welcomed me like a friend.
They might be German, but there were still people talking about Passover there, and it did not make me comfortable. We had a good time with him. We were going to sit in Rattlesnake Park, but it was a tiny little strip that smelled like marijuana because there were people sitting there doing marijuana.
Smoking marijuana.
So we found this new little area, and we'll
send pictures of it. It was really neat, and maybe I can find a way to get there if we figure out what it's called.
And also, again, to remind you about our contest we have going on, if you want to win a free copy of this book signed by the author, post a picture or video of you listening to us, L.A. Meekly, on Instagram or Twitter, and tag us, and we'll add you, and one winner will randomly be chosen. But again, going to the post office might not be a good idea, so the options for you are, if you live nearby, I could drop it off of your house on your doorstep and then run away scared, or
take a picture with them.
Or
you're such a good host.
Stop saying that. It'll give people ideas, because people can't resist being with me in pictures.
I'm over 6 feet tall, That's a reason to take a picture with me.
I can lie down and you can be that far apart from me. Or I could, if you really wanted immediately to do some walks and you don't feel comfortable with that, I could take some pictures and send it to you. Or we could just wait till this is all done and it'll be safe and you can have it for the future. So do that. It's fun.
I hope to see pictures of you people soon.
I hope to see pictures of you after having smashed all of your plates in a fit of coronavirus seclusion mania.
Okay, there's a weenie dog on loose. We gotta go.
Stay safe. Also, follow us on Twitter, at
Instagram.
Leave us a review on iTunes, 5 stars. Listen on Spotify. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on Patreon to support us financially.
Yes.
For as little as $5 a month, you can receive a free No, free.
Free.
It's $5 a month.
Whoa. When have you ever said that before?
I say it in demanding ways.
Free me.
We will send you a postcard handwritten by us, and for less than that, you'll just be supporting us financially, which we make no money. We make so little money.
We're in a park
destitute.
Right now.
We're going to have to sell this equipment after we're done.
We're so poor we might start writing soon.
If you listen to the last episode, you might get that. Yeah, so sorry if this sounded a little rushed, but we're sitting in the middle of a cold park and we're afraid of everyone around us.
Yep, except for that dog. Can I pet that dog?
So yeah, now enjoy our talk with Paul and stay safe.
Listen to a simpler time.
Yeah, you are listening to a simpler time when people who didn't live with each other could sit next to each other.
Bye.
To be young again. Bye. And recording.
How old was the guy from Forest Lawn?
He was pretty young.
He sounded young.
Yeah, he
was a little younger than us.
That's
Maybe.
Younger than me.
He had a better job than us.
You mean he was 17? Yeah, we're 18.
How could anyone be younger than us?
Yeah, he seemed like an old soul, but a young guy. That's what he sounded like.
He looked young, and he was young.
Is this being recorded? Can we send it to him?
Yeah. Okay, you want to start us off?
So who are you and how long have you lived in LA?
My name is Paul Haddad. I've lived in Los Angeles my whole life.
What particular area?
I was born in Hollywood in the building that's now the Scientology Temple on Sunset. That's got that kind of aqua blue
The
color.
hospital one?
Yeah.
Well,
wow.
You weren't born in a Scientologist.
L. Ron would come by, say hello. That was called Cedars of Lebanon Hospital, and it was where Judy Garland was born. It was the Hospital of the Stars. And I guess my parents were living in the Hollywood area. That's where I was born, and then in the 70s, Cedars of Lebanon merged with Cedars Sinai, and then that building became a Scientology building.
That's such a dramatic looking, it looks like the angles and stuff of the entrance. Cause I thought it was certainly that was designed for Scientology to be dramatic, but it was weird to find out that was an actual hospital.
Yeah. I think hospitals of that era, of an earlier era, were sort of more in line with churches, big and dramatic and we're saving lives and stuff.
And that's, you're describing Scientology, too.
Yeah.
All their buildings are big and dramatic, so it was perfect.
The celebrities.
The Celebrity Center is that way. They do find these great buildings to repurpose.
Yeah.
It's like a hermit crab moving into a shell, a nice shell.
A space hermit crab. There's a park ranger right over there. In case we don't know an answer to something, we can ask him.
Yeah, we'll ask him.
I love
a fourth mic?
Our first question is, when was this thing built?
I know.
Oh, look at that.
We'll have to take pictures because we don't know where we are. We can only describe that as arcade-ish in all the arches. And we don't know if it's old or new.
Because there's plugs in all the old arches. So
we think it's designed for quinceaneras mostly.
Okay, so...
On my rides here. I gotta go, guys. Sorry.
That's the announcement of question 2 sound that we play in every episode.
Bugle boys out.
All right, so we made it clear we don't know where we are.
Specifically.
But we know what we're next to and in general where we are. Where are we right now?
Right now we're on the banks of the Los Angeles River, and we're talking at Riverfront Park.
Because we wanted to meet at Rattlesnake Park, which was one of the places on the walk in your book. But there's nothing there, and this is seemingly a new sort of thing that.
And I was really disappointed there were not rattlesnakes there. I guess there were when they built it. There was a nest of rattlesnakes.
That's what's the deal? Why?
Yeah, and so thus the name, and we were kind of disappointed. They're just a bunch of kind of ganja, kind of
ganja
dudes,
birds.
ganja birds. There are these ducks just chilling that look like.
But it's like they found 5 rattlesnakes and they just named it Rattlesnake Park. That's how.
Else.
Well,
there's no water at the time. So.
Just south of us is Marsh Park, and I'm sure there was a marsh there.
They found a marshmallow there.
Now there's a skate park. Marshmallow and marshmallows, frankly. I've seen both.
A whole nest of venomous marshmallows.
Well, at Marsh Park, that's near where I parked because there's a jungle gym kind of area, and there's a big snake play area. I'm like, this has to be it.
Yeah.
Rattlesnake Park has to be the one with the rattlesnake there.
It's weird when certain areas attach themselves to one story, and that's their identity. Like Frogtown.
Yeah.
In
Frogtown.
general, they've had frogs.
Yeah, we are in Frogtown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which wasn't even a thing until 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And really, you got to credit the founder of Friends of the LA River, Lewis McAdams, because he breathed life in this whole section. Because the LA River, when I was growing up, it was a punchline to jokes.
Yeah.
Johnny Carson would make jokes about it. It was used in Greece and Repo Man as a wasteland. And then when he started beautifying it, and this whole area of Frogtown, it really became what it is.
Tell us about, what is your book and what is it about?
My book is called 10,000 Steps a Day in LA, 57 Walking Adventures. It's an update of my original version, which came out around 3 years ago, which was 52 Walking Adventures. So it's about 5% new and improved, or whatever that number is.
None of us can check that.
No, thank God we're not mathematicians.
Impossible to find out.
Can't. And should I let the Metrolink go by? You probably don't care.
Part of the ambiance.
Yeah, part of the ambiance.
That's the river
two
train.
Metrolinks, a south and a northbound lane.
Make a wish.
Yeah, so my book is 10,000 Steps a Day in LA, 57 Walking Adventures. And what I've done is I broke Los Angeles into 5 or 6 different regions, encouraging readers to explore different parts of the city. And each route is 10,000 steps, which is essentially 5 miles. So these are 5-mile loops you can do. And some of them are up and backs, where you don't do a loop, but you can go to a destination and come back.
Right. Since the recording cut out before, I want this on record. I did one of the walks a couple weekends ago, and it was great. And we talk about going to new areas of town that we've never really been to and exploring it. And this is a good way to see the highlights and give you a reason to be there. And also exercise, which I need. Clearly. Which everyone tells me I need.
Well, you touched on something there, which is a big reason to do these walks, is you're getting exercise, but it's not the main reason to do the walks. Yeah. To me, 10,000 steps is a lifestyle choice a lot of people aspire to, and this is just an excuse to go out and see the city, and 10,000 steps is just a construct. It's a framework to explore the city.
Yeah, I liked, because hikes are fine, like hikes in nature, but if I can get the same amount of exercise around the city, seeing things, I'm way more interested in that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially when you've broken down so many areas that we like to touch on, like South LA, or you go to the Valley, or you go to Hollywood. It gives everyone a good excuse to go.
Yeah, well, one of the main selling points for the Silver Lake one was that we got to go to the La Bianca house, which was that was a thrill, an honor,
a real treat.
Yeah. They might have changed the address of that one too. For those unfamiliar, the La Biancas were killed the day after Sharon Tate and her friends were killed in '69 by the Manson family, and I think they changed the addresses of both houses.
Right. Yeah, they did.
Well, I think they demolished one of them completely.
I think
but the driveway's still there.
Yeah,
right.
But
like
that.
What's weirder is that it gives you, just going there gives you more context of that story, because I had no idea there's this giant monastery literally right next door to it while this was happening. Like the priests were sleeping like 15 feet away from this, which is weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the next Tarantino movie he can do a sequel where there's a happy ending to the La Biancas. Also.
The priests come over and they
know priests come over.
They know
oh
kung
my God.
fu.
It turns into like a Kill Bill kind of ending where they've actually under their cloaks they've got Uzis.
Your move, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. Hope he's hearing this.
Oh, we know he is. We've mentioned him enough. So what is the significance of this place, even though we're not in Rattlesnake Park, but like this sort of river walk in your book? What is the significance?
Well, the Los Angeles River's significance, and one reason I wanted to put in my book, is it's a big part of what gave birth to LA. It was the lifeblood of Los Angeles before we had the aqueducts that Mulholland built. This is where people got their water, and that's why downtown Los Angeles is where it is. And the river extends 52 miles or so from the ocean deep into the valley. And this section in particular was interesting to me because this is where Juan Bautista de Anza, the explorer, the Spanish explorer, went. He went along the river here in 1775. I mentioned in the book, I think he traveled about 1,200 miles, which is 2 million steps. So he
top of that.
Yeah, top that, readers. Yeah, there's a lot of history here, as there is with the El Camino Real, which is basically the Ventura Freeway now.
And he used these plugs that are in this area.
Charges horses.
and he had a cell phone, of course. He wanted, he was doing selfies back home and sending them.
Look at
I'm
this.
okay, Mom.
Right.
Look what I ate.
Exactly. So, this is a significant part of Los Angeles, the Los Angeles River.
Well, also, I feel like the river, what they're trying to do with the river of make it a more walkable place and a more not ugly place that smells like cabbage when we were walking by. That's sort of almost the center point of making LA more of a beautiful or outdoorsy city. I feel like the river is the battleground of that right now, and they're kind of doing it with this whatever this place is.
I think you're right, and it's definitely still has a grittiness to it that I like.
Yeah.
It's definitely still urban,
Those ducks.
but it is teetering on the edge of being gentrified.
Yeah.
Like Los Angeles. Yeah, and right behind us is a new building that went up, riverfront property. I'm sure these singles go for $2,500 or $3,000, and that's definitely changing. And so it's a microcosm of Los Angeles. In that way.
That's weird that the river has always been sort of the molding of the city.
And just talking about the history one more time, only like a couple miles that way is the convergence where like the settlers were like, this is the spot. We'll start diverting the river right here. Like that was a mile or two down that way. Like,
have you ever been underneath the Figueroa Bridge?
Yeah.
Before they built the new one.
No.
They built the new one. It opened about a year or so ago. But the old one, I thought, I'll just walk down the river and just keep going downtown. Well, it stops at Figueroa, and you have to take surface streets downtown, and then you pick it up again just south of downtown near the Farmer John mural.
Perfect.
But where it stops along the river, if you're riding your bike or walking, you enter this Mad Max community of like trash cans on fire and like this whole group of futuristic looking bikers, and it's kind of scary. Like I immediately turned around, but I did go back when they started constructing
With the shotgun.
There were TVs going under the overpass and stuff. It was like a big homeless community, but more than that, it was like I'm telling you, it was like something you expect from Thunderdome or whatever.
I found the Warriors.
Yeah, Warriors. Yeah, they were kind of like Warrior-esque. But I did go there, and I took some pictures when they're building the new Figueroa Street Bridge because I wanted to document everything that was left behind, this community that was living there, and they had cleared out by then. So I got it right in that sweet spot before, because a couple days later that was all gone.
Wow.
And so I got like some of the last photos of this Mad Max Netherworld.
They're going to come to you for documentation at some point when they write their book.
Why not?
I want to also point out that the way the book is written, people who might like our show would also enjoy the way the book is written because it's funny. Like titles are plays on words and things like that.
Like yours.
It goes hand in hand.
No, I think we're of the same litter, clearly, except I've got 20 years on you guys. I think the way you do your show, these chapters are written. I was imagining a Universal Studios tram driver, like
that describes us pretty well.
Like I actually thought of doing those tours through Hollywood at one point because I like to be snarky and give information while also being fun about it.
Yeah.
And that's how the book is written, just the same way you guys do your podcast.
Yeah, it makes it more palatable for people.
I could
who
take
don't
information from people who are trying to be funny.
It's What are you trying to say? What do you mean trying?
So what's the most important thing we could learn from your book?
To explore Los Angeles, you have to dig a little deeper. You got to go beneath the surface. You can't just lean
the
on
bridge.
or a bridge. Just be careful. You can't just take the cliches and lean into those.
Yeah.
You have to go beneath the surface and recognize that there's history everywhere you go, and that's part of the fun in exploring these communities. Is you may drive by them on your freeway a million times going to and from work, but then when you get off and you start walking on foot, there's different smells and sights, and it just reawakens your senses, and you learn something about each community that way. You've got to just walk it.
I learned so much more because LA is now and always was like a car city, and you're supposed to like drive by stuff, but like you get such different experiences when you park and you walk around. Just any area you're at, you get like a different experience. I really like that.
It's not an easy city always to sort of appreciate, but like exactly, if you dig a little deeper, you'll like it.
That can be intimidating. I wasn't sure where to even walk in, let's say, East LA or Boyle Heights, but when I started exploring more about those cities, I realized there were links you could make on this walk that enabled me, and now I put it in the book, to do a really cool 5-mile loop that encapsulates a lot about Boyle Heights and the history of Boyle Heights. And every block or so, there's something. And that's just to take that as one example. I think I combined Boyle Heights and Lincoln Heights. I realized there was one section near the Lincoln Heights Park, which has a beautiful lake, and that was the big hangout for people at the turn of the century. There was an alligator farm and a zoo. But there's all these statues, and there's more outdoor statues by that park than any place in Los Angeles. And there's at least a couple dozen around the park and the roads around there. And many of them honor the Mexican-American heritage or Mexican heroes.
I think it's called La Raza Park, which is a big town.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's
an alligator.
Of course, there's the main square there where Mariachi Plaza.
Yeah.
Mariachi Plaza. What's that?
We got tejuino at that. Have you had that? It's like the most disgusting drink you'll ever try.
It was very strong.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. I'll have to hear about this. We'll have to do another field trip. It sounds like, guys.
Thanks for rejoining us.
Tejuino factory.
One of my favorite things of that particular route is there's an old Midas Muffler Man.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's one of the secrets of LA, or one of the legacies of Los Angeles, is these Midas Muffler Men are all over the place. They've been repurposed to be holding hamburgers or something else.
Sometimes bearded, sometimes not bearded.
So my favorite Midas Muffler in Los Angeles, I found him. Actually, I knew about him because I spent some time in Malibu growing up. We had friends who lived there, and I would go see them, and they lived near the Malibu Pier. And on PCH, just south or east of the pier, is Midas Muffler Man. And these were like the 40-foot tall men that Midas put up in the 50s and 60s when Midas had a bunch of garages around Los Angeles. This particular Midas Man is still there today. And when I was a kid, he had been converted to a hamburger guy. So there was no Midas garage there. If there was, at one time, it converted to a hamburger stand. So we used to go there for burgers and fries. And they put like a cook's hat on him, and he's no longer holding a muffler, he's holding a hamburger. Fast forward to around the early 2000s, the hamburger joint became a Mexican restaurant. Now he's like dark skinned, he's got a sombrero, and the hamburger that he was holding, the bottom half, the bun is a tray holding nachos, and the upper part of the upper bun from his hamburger is part of his sombrero.
Oh, wow.
They've moved it up to the top, I think. Or it's just a hat, I think. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I love how they've repurposed that thing 3 times now. It was a muffler man, then a hamburger man, now the Mexican server.
Representation is important.
I'm trying to...
That defines LA right there.
You sound like he's appropriating cultures, but I'm trying to think of... Because now I'm thinking of the Michelin Man. I can't picture this guy. Because I know I've seen like these things.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
I saw a guy holding like an axe.
Okay, so the Michelin Man is just like this big... It looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, almost, right? I don't even know if that's a man. That's a weird... That's kind of a real loose term of the word man. But the Midas Man was
man's man.
I guess they were made of fiberglass, maybe, and he was just very broad-shouldered, and he looked like he was a lumberjack.
Yeah.
But he should be holding a muffler, but sometimes they're holding an axe or an axle for a car garage,
or a hamburger,
or a taco. Yeah.
Wasn't there one like in front of a golf course, maybe along a freeway?
Yes. I think the same company that made the Midas Man started making them for golf courses, and so you'd see him off the 405 or 60 freeway, and they're holding a golf club.
Yeah,
but his hands are in the same position. You could put anything in there.
We got the mold, so who wants a?
We have some extra ones. Midas didn't want anymore. You guys want? We could stick a golf club in this thing. But that's an example of the kind of kitschy, that's roadside architecture and roadside landmarks. That's also Los Angeles. And to just seek those out, it's like looking for little Easter eggs.
Yeah.
That's part of the fun.
You know what I've wanted to do of a long walk is just pick a long street like Sherman Way or Wilshire or something, and just walk from one end to the other one day, like entirely across the valley, or like entirely from downtown to the ocean.
I think someone has stolen that idea already. I hate to break it to you, Daniel. I mean, it's the guy.
I hope that Midas Man still has an axe.
I feel like Michael Schneider, I believe his name is.
Schneider.
And I'll get him. And he runs, he has the website or the blog, Franklin Avenue. Michael Schneider, Franklin Avenue. And once a year, I don't know if he still does it, but he would lead walks all the way down Wilshire Boulevard from downtown to the beach.
Wow.
But you should do Sepulveda.
Some
other one.
Just as beautiful. Go down Sepulveda Boulevard.
A brutal walk.
Yeah.
That's all I can think
I guess
of.
Seek La Via?
Ciclavia.
It's kind of like that, just with
but
bikes.
on bikes. Yeah. I don't know how to ride a bike.
Screw bikes.
Yeah.
I actually feel like too many people rely on scooters and they can just walk.
Yeah. They don't go that
I never
fast.
quite understood those. What I don't understand is that it's like 13 cents a minute to ride one of those, and if you want to take it anywhere of value, like you're paying like $20 to ride this scooter.
Yeah.
I saw some in the bushes on the way over here, which is pretty nice. I like to see them in places where they don't belong.
Oh, that was me. I threw them there. They were in my way.
So fast.
So what's your favorite part of the book?
I like going to places that are living fossils of old Los Angeles because it's like a time warp. It's like time traveling. An example would be maybe, have you ever heard of Dwarf Land?
No.
Dwarf Land was this temporary 2-3 block long amusement park or amusement period that Walt Disney built for the premiere of
Snow
White and the Seven Dwarfs in 1937. And so there's a strip of grass on McCarthy Vista, which is a street near Crescent Heights.
Okay.
It connects San Vicente with Wilshire. And that 3-block strip of grass there, there's a 3-block median, and that strip of grass had on it this amusement that he called Dwarf Land. And it was the 7 dwarves. I guess he hired little people to man this park while people were walking down the red carpet for the premiere of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs on December 21st, 1937. And they were going to the McCarthy Vista movie theater, which was a beautiful theater, since torn down, of course, because it's Los Angeles, which was kind of recreated. There was a nice replica of it at California Adventure. As soon as you walk in, it's on the left-hand side, and it's a miniature version of what that theater looked like. When you go to the park, it's a restaurant, and that's where Disney did a lot of its premieres. So Dwarf Land was
what did they do? They just like stand there?
No, well, there were like little water wheels and little cottages.
Like they recreated like a scene sort of thing.
They had a bunch of
kind of like where you imagine they would live.
Okay.
And then they sent movie stars in to mingle with the dwarves. So my favorite picture, you can look it up online, is Shirley Temple hanging out with Grumpy. But even like she got this big smile, but even that can't warm his grumpy heart. You know, he's still pissed at her.
By nature.
And then you got Dopey with Cary Grant and Marlena Dietrich. Like it was like the A-listers. It's very surreal. It's like something out of a David Lynch movie.
It's the mashups I've been waiting for.
Yeah, exactly. So I love just treading that ground. That's just an example of my walk through Miracle Mile takes you down the pathway as if you're walking Dwarf Land. Another
dream.
Many people feel gave him the idea for Disneyland. Like, I'm on to something here, because when the premiere ended, he left Dwarf Land open for a couple of weeks because it was so popular. And of course, Snow White played there for a year, like all movies would. They play forever. And then even when Snow White ended its run at the McCarthy Vista Theater, people wanted the little amusement park to remain. But by then, I think it'd become very derelict, and kind of like the Figueroa Bridge. Like the Mad Maxers had moved in, and you know, there
the
was
7 dwarves were like stabbing people. On the
I think like Oompa Loompas were coming in, trying to take over. It was ugly. It was not a good scene.
Now we're all grumpy.
Now we're all grumpy.
Stabby.
But another example of that is, I love the idea that Horace Dobbins had, and only from the 1890s could you have the name Horace. But he created the California Cycleway, which was an elevated wooden bikeway to go from Pasadena to Los Angeles. He built the first mile or two because biking was like a big thing in the 1890s. And, you know, you see those men with the big handlebar mustaches. And
one giant wheel.
Oh, yeah.
With the one big wheel.
Like a lady in a giant Victorian dress trying to ride a bike.
Exactly. Side saddle, of course. Ladylike. So he built it with a toll, which was about $3 in today's money, $4.50 if you go round trip. And he got as far as like the Arroyo Seco. He got down there, and it was about a mile or two long. The pictures are stunning. He liked to brag that it was all downhill. Well, what about if you go back? How does that physics work?
Not also downhill.
He was trying to encourage people, it's all downhill, don't worry about it, because they were already grumbling that they had to go bring their bikes up a staircase to get to the elevated wooden bikeway. And those were huge, I'm sure very heavy things at the time. So it was not a big hit. And then by the 1900s, cars started becoming a thing. And it didn't last very long.
They had to carry their cars up.
It's all downhill.
But he was onto something with the California Cycleway, because now we have, just here along the Los Angeles River, there's bikeways through the city. And of course, we want more of them. And this was well over 100 years ago that he created the first known bikeway in the city. So in my Pasadena walk, I take you along the route that the first mile or two of his bikeway traveled. And now it's an alleyway, basically, off of Fair Oaks. It's called Edmondson Alley. And it's not it's not a scary alley. After all, it's Pasadena.
It's Pasadena scary.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not very scenic. I just mention it that if you want to travel along the same pathway, you can go down the alleyway. Otherwise, you could walk down Fair Oaks, which is also a nicer walk. Yeah. So those are the parts that I like. I like to give you one other example. There's a section in North Hollywood along the Whitnall Highway, which is a very bizarre place.
Yeah, where like all those electrical towers are. Is that where that is?
Yes, exactly. It's a right-of-way. It's a really wide street, and you're looking at it, you're like, why is it so wide? Well, it was supposed to be a freeway that was supposed to burrow through under the Hollywood sign. and connect with Hollywood. And so they built a portion of it, and this genius, George Whitnell, this engineer, and back then, I shouldn't, in his defense, everyone thought freeways were the answer to everything in the 40s and 50s.
That's where you put cars.
Yeah, exactly. So the Whitnell Highway is a route in my book in North Hollywood where you can walk along this forgotten freeway.
Thinking about like old relics, the Echo Mountain Trail is another one where you can still see like the PE car, how it used to like travel up, and you see the rails. It's a 2-hour walk though, so it's not that interesting.
I love that
Do you?
walk. Yeah, it's not in my book because it's one thing I wanted to do in the book was make it easy for people, and that's an intense walk to get to Echo Mountain.
Yeah,
maybe the next one, maybe the next hiking book. But these tend to be flatter routes. There are some hills. The Highland Park one going up to the Self-Realization Fellowship is kind of steep. That's about as steep as it gets.
Okay,
because I'm lazy like anyone else. If I'm putting in 10,000 steps, I sure as hell don't want to go up hills.
No, I got to carry my bike.
Exactly.
So what do you hope the people of LA will take from reading your book?
A new appreciation for neighborhoods that they didn't know about it or that were underrepresented or off their radar. I just feel that, I use this corny analogy, but I think it's very apt, that Los Angeles is like a piñata, and you got to just kind of keep breaking, you got to keep hacking away at it to get to the messy interior with all the kind of treasures that you are found once you bust it open.
Spoons full of tamarind.
Exactly. Or, Tootsie Rolls, and there's some Jawbreakers and Double Bubble. There's all these kind of little treasures and sweet spots around the city, but you've got to explore them. And so part of the fun of doing these walks is you want to reward yourself. So I try to give some restaurant recommendations, picnic spots, good places to take your dog. I think 47 of the 57 walks, or 48 or so, are Fido friendly, as I call it in the book. Each chapter lets you know if you could bring your dog.
Yeah, and your dog is in most of the pictures.
My dog is like my mascot. He should have his own Instagram page if I knew how to do that.
If I knew what Instagram was.
If I knew what Instagram was.
What did I just say?
It's on the interweb, isn't it? My dog's name is Porter, and Porter has been with my family for 10 years now. So he's in pictures from the first edition of the book, which came out in 2015, and he looks the same. He may be a little slower now, but he's still game for all these walks.
Demanding royalties.
Yeah, I feed him in greenies and rawhides. Porter, having a dog really gets you out. I think it's been proven that people who are dog owners are healthier, so I should get 2 dogs. I'm getting older here.
Then I'll be ripped.
Does that mean I'll be like, does that improve my health twofold? I'm wondering. So yeah, Porter's in a lot of the pictures, and I think he probably puts in 20 or 30,000 steps because he's got four legs.
Yeah. Well, I guess you'd have to quadruple it, so he's doing 40,000 steps a day.
Put little pedometers on each leg. So yeah, that's when I included some restaurants in these routes, I try to include places that I know will probably be around when the people read this book 5 or 10 years from now. Right. So I try to go with the vintage restaurants like the Tam O'Shanter or Pink's Hot Dogs or whatever that will probably still be there.
Yeah, well,
you would hope.
Yeah, as we've seen lately, who knows?
You're right. You can never be too sure with the city.
Yeah, so eat a Pink's Hot Dog while you can. What is the strangest thing that we can learn from your book? Strangest story, perhaps? Or factoid?
Yeah, factoids. I discovered a few things when I was doing my walks. I hadn't realized how much Franklin Delano Roosevelt's WPA, Works Progress Administration, how much a factor it was in our city. I knew it put people to work, but there's so many engineering projects and civic projects when you walk around that were bankrolled by the WPA and by FDR. Yeah. Everything from artwork, like an 18-foot statue of Santa Monica at Palisades Park, to the wall that was built along the Franklin Canyon Reservoir Road was also WPA, and much of Griffith Park, and other artwork, probably at Lincoln Park. And
lots of murals around town.
Lots of murals around town. So that was kind of surprising to me. And speaking of murals, that's another secret that I felt like I stumbled on, was all these hidden murals. Everyone knows, a lot of people know about the Great Wall of Los Angeles. That's the mural along that's the Tujunga Wash in North Hollywood. River. But if you go just east of Chandler from there, go like just a couple blocks, there's a hidden mural that most people don't know about that's probably about a block or two long. I think it was commissioned maybe 10 years ago, and it's the history of North Hollywood with aerospace and entertainment. Really beautiful. Yeah. And that to me is an example of stumbling upon something that not what really many people write about, and that they're just found by walking. And so there are a lot of hidden murals and artwork around the city that I didn't know about many of these when I was before I started exploring.
It's shocking how much stuff you see when you, like, even we were just talking about the air raid sirens. Like, you would never notice it unless someone told you there's air raid sirens, and then you see them everywhere that you go.
Isn't that funny? So I mentioned I have a sidebar sometimes to do what's called extra steps in my chapters, where you can walk another few blocks to see something interesting. And so for the Silver Lake walk, the extra steps there is walking to an air raid siren, which is a really cool looking one.
Oh, I walked to that because we had gotten a listener question. Someone was asking me what that was, and I was like, I have no idea what this is. And then I happened to take this walk, and it took me straight to that, and you told me what
that's
it is.
That's cool. Well, it's a really interesting looking one. It almost has like it looks like a skirt. It's called a skirted one. There are different designs. There's a really cool website that tells you where all of them are in Los Angeles, and there's at least a couple hundred still existing. And for those who don't know, these are like, I don't know, maybe 60-foot tall towers that are just these poles, and at the top of the pole, it looks like, I don't know how you describe it, a siren, an air raid siren, essentially. Like it sounds.
What word could I use?
What word could I use? I know, air raid siren. Or there's like a blow, what do you call it when you...
Blowhorn?
Blowhorn kind of. It has those kind of sirens.
Torch.
They have different shapes, and they were built during the Cold War, and they would test them through the 70s, and I am old enough to remember when they would test them the last Friday of every month at 10 a.m. And I went to West Hollywood Elementary for school, and they would fire those things up around the West Hollywood area, just like they did across all of Los Angeles. And it was this haunting sound, this cacophony of sirens going... for like 10 or 15 minutes. It was so loud the teachers had to stop talking.
Great.
And I was like just freaking out. A lot of my friends were, because I always thought, like, well, what if the Russians are attacking us? They know we test these the last Friday and they choose that as the time to bomb us. And so I was always relieved when they stopped running those sirens, when they would peter out.
Yeah, when the Russians came and turned the siren off.
Exactly. Turn it off.
Don't need these.
This was the tail end of the drop and roll era.
Right, yeah.
And then the sirens, they stopped testing them in the mid-70s. But they kept them up. You never know if we'll need them again.
They should put hamburgers on top of all of them now. Hamburger. Last Friday of the month.
Oh, and another weird thing about Los Angeles that I only learned when I was doing these walks is how many different walks of fame there are in the city. It's not just the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
There's the one by Radford, it's just like along Ventura Boulevard, isn't it? The Radford Walk of Fame or whatever, and it's all these old cowboys and things like that.
Well, you live in Sherman Oaks? Yeah, so that's Studio City, so kind of near there. On Radford and Ventura, the CBS studios there, or Radford Studio, whatever it's called now, started creating their own little Walk of Fame of TV shows and movies that were filmed at the studio.
Yeah. Wow.
So Gilligan's Island is there, and then like, Murder, She Wrote, and some really random ones. But then there's others, like Beverly Hills has its own beauty Walk of Fame. There's
I must be on it.
Okay, so Echo Park. Echo Park's got one right there by Story's Bookstore and the Jensen Recreation Center. Yeah. Logan and Sunset has a sports or athletes Walk of Fame.
Really?
And they're really tiny plaques. Yeah. Kind of sad, frankly.
I think I've seen a couple before and I had no idea what it was.
I saw a couple too, and I didn't even know what they were when I wrote my book. I should have mentioned it because I actually take people right past there and I don't even mention it. So I feel like I've been very derelict in my duties here. But afterwards I found out that was built in the late 70s to early 80s by a guy who admired a lot of local sports heroes. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has one, Tommy Lasorda, maybe Steve Garvey, and it lasted to like the early 80s, and they're still there in the sidewalk. And then if you go down to the pier, I think the Hermosa Beach Pier has a surfer's Walk of Fame on the pier, of course.
They have the one in front of the Grammy Museum, I think.
And there's a couple pornography ones, too. You'll have to find those on your own.
It's a rite of passage.
It's like, I think we know where to look. I work in Reseda. I can find it.
So what's the best kept secret in your book?
Well, we just mentioned some of them.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. So best kept secret in my book, I'll give you one urban one and one natural one.
Okay.
Because my book is broken into kind of urban walks and walks amongst nature. A great urban secret is if you walk down Hollywood Boulevard from Western and go west to La Brea and then go back. So that's one of the routes I have in my book. It's exploring Hollywood, but instead of looking down at the Walk of Fame and looking at all the sites, I'm kind of encouraging readers to look up and look at all the old buildings, because many of the buildings have these faces embedded in the relief work, in the pillars, in the facades of the buildings, like the old Security Pacific building, which used to be Pacific Theaters, is on Cahuenga and Hollywood. That's got several dozen weird faces.
I think I've seen those.
Yeah, you probably have noticed them even subconsciously. It feels like I'm someone's watching.
Yeah. Why am I so scared on Hollywood Boulevard?
It's like, and they're hiding in plain sight, like you were saying. Every block has these old buildings, and even like the it used to be the Palace, now Avalon. The front of that has these like ogres, or the El Capitan Theater has. It's like this cavalcade of circus performers and crazy clowns, and I think like Shrek's in there. Like an old one though, like ogres.
Shrek,
and,
the original.
Yeah, like maybe that was the inspiration. And then there's an architectural style, if I get this right, it's Churrigueresque, and it's basically Moorish. And there's a building kind of near the Supply Sergeant on the south side of Hollywood Boulevard, and you go like a little west of that, and it's got all these swirls within it. It's near the Egyptian Theater, kind of one of those storefronts. I actually recommend bringing binoculars. If you go across the street and you just look up at the facade of this Moorish building, you can find hundreds of details of like little elephant heads and gremlins and stuff. I don't know what the hell these things are, but I became fascinated by these faces. Shrek again, and they're very demonic looking, And so I just became fascinated by that. So I devoted a whole walk to that, and they're hiding in plain sight. And then amongst nature, one of the newer walks I did for my book is in La Cunada Flint Ridge, because that's such a great area to explore. And there's all sorts of little hidden gems there. There's an old baseball field that the dudes up at JPL, and the women, I suppose, they would play baseball there.
Oh, wow.
When they were designing these different spacecraft and doing engineering work at JPL.
Yeah. Spaceball, they called it.
Yeah. And they would go there to play baseball. So there's an old scoreboard left there and what looks like an old baseball diamond and old dugouts. And now it's part of Hohamona Park, Native American named park along kind of just north of the 210 freeway.
Okay.
And then there's the Flint Ridge Trail, which is this perennial stream that goes from the 210 freeway. The stream goes under it.
Oh, wow.
So you get to walk through a tunnel, and then you
can
walk
these tunnels.
Yeah, I'm into tunnels. That stream is something I didn't even know about. I'm sure people live there are like, dude, we knew about this. Get a clue. But that's an example of exploring a part of the city you don't really aren't that familiar with. And then I was so thrilled to find this perennial stream that is shaded by all these sycamores and cottonwoods. So you can do 5,000 steps just along this river or stream in the middle of summer. It's really well shaded, and that forms part of the La Cunada Flint Ridge Walk. Everywhere you go around LA, there's so many parks and streams, perennial streams that you may not know about. Another one that I discovered for one of the newer walks in Sylmar, because I take people up to the Cascades, which is where the aqueduct ends. Yeah. So there's a Beehive Park, I think it is, or
I think I know why they named it that.
It's in Granada Hills.
And Beeman.
Not Beeman. That's in Studio City.
Because that Beeman. Oh, wait, no. No, I think I know what you're talking about, and I think there are a lot of bees there.
No connection to Rattlesnake Park.
This one actually pays off.
Rattlesnakes eat the bees.
Yeah, you just never know what you're going to find, including these hidden parks all over the place.
There's one park on Rinaldi that it's a park, but it's literally like a bench and a trash can. And like, that's a park, but it's still a park. There's like some grass. There's hundreds of these tiny little parks all around the city. We should make like a pass book and get stamps at each of these things.
Yeah, each little park.
Yeah.
All 4,000 little parks in LA.
Yeah. And we'll fund it ourselves.
Of course. I'm sure it doesn't sound like there'd be much work involved with that at all. And LA is so park poor. I would really... I would buy that, or at least I would steal it, online from download it.
I would see if I could torrent it. Yeah.
What is the best time to come? Either here, where we are in this place we don't know, or just any time to do any of the walks in the book?
I feel the best time to visit the Los Angeles River, if it's winter, pretty much any time. Yeah. During the summer, the morning,
11 p.m.
Yeah. Well, at night along the river, you can hear frogs still, which my dad grew up in Frogtown. He would say like there would be frogs in the streets, but because we didn't see them anymore, he thought that there weren't any. But I took a walk recently, and you can hear frogs along the river still.
He was referring to French people, and your dad's really racist.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I should have caught that.
I just love the idea of frogs in the streets.
I know.
And then they fell out of the sky. Oh, wait. No, that's Magnolia, the movie.
That's what I was thinking of.
Hey, I knew I'd seen that somewhere. But one nice thing about coming here late afternoon or early evening along the river is you can go to Spokes Cafe. I love that there is now a place that is open at night along the river where you can go and get food and get beer and hang out with your friends and work on your bike.
Frogtown Brewery too is a really good stop.
Frogtown Brewery. I've never been there. Is it
very nice.
Really cool?
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's kind of small. They let dogs in, which is cool.
Oh, that's
yeah,
wow.
but they have a good catalog of beer.
Are there frogs in the restaurant?
Yeah, also frogs in the restaurant. They serve you. Yeah.
French people.
Every beer comes with a floating frog, and you get to drink the frog.
I don't know if you've been to the Los Encinos Park in Encino, which I talk about probably every episode.
You're sponsored by
it's
personally sponsored.
It's a really nice park, but they also, not that really recently, but a few years ago, opened up a restaurant right overlooking the park. It used to be in El Torito, but now it's just some kind of expensive place, but it's good food, and you get to see the whole, like there's a lake and there's ducks and stuff. It's nice when they have places you can eat along these nature areas.
Yeah. Echo Park is another example of that. The cafe that's there. Yeah, that's a great magnet to pull people in, and then they start exploring that lake or park. I'm all for that.
For eating.
More of that. More of
I'm
that.
hungry.
No, I'm a big advocate of you've got to reward your stomach after you rewarded yourself.
That's why I got Red Lion Tavern after the Silver Lake walk.
I need a bratwurst now after this walk. Where should you park when you come here to the river? What's your best idea?
My preferred parking space for the route in my book, Exploring the River, is Oro Street, which is in Elysian Valley, kind of near the 5 and Riverside Drive. But any of those streets, Marsh is another one, any of those streets that dead end with the river.
That have an entrance to it,
That have an entrance to the river. Yeah. Any of those are good to park at. If you do enter from Fletcher, like we did, you can just park on Fletcher Drive or any of the side streets around here.
Well, we also apparently there seems to be some sort of parking here. I don't know how many spots there actually are, but who knows?
Yeah,
who knows? We can't walk over there.
We're at Riverfront Park, and we were kind of surprised to find a legitimate parking lot here.
That helps when there's parking a lot. My biggest complaint is that with the red line stuff, or all of the lines, when they started charging to park to take the subway, that drove me crazy. Like, you're trying to get more people to come to these things. Don't make it expensive to do that.
Don't get me started on MTA. All I know is I purchased a fare for my tap card online, $25 I put in there.
Okay.
Because to encourage me to use the subway and everything. It disappeared after a month.
Oh my God.
They have this rule that if you don't use it within a month, the money goes away.
Really?
Yes. And
that's my money.
Yeah, and it just vanishes. And it seems like that's against the law or something. And they said the way you can make that not happen is, because I called to complain. Because it happened a couple times to me. One time I just put $5 on. I'm like, okay, I don't want this money to go away. And it did, or it almost did. I called. They said, yeah, that'll go away in 30 days if you just did it online. You've got to go and activate it by actually using the bus, the subway, whatever it is, within a month.
Okay.
To encourage you. But why have that rule?
That's so
I said,
stupid.
well, I don't need to use it in the next week when this is going to expire. She said, well, just go down there and put your card in the kiosk and hit the H option. It'll recognize you're in the station, and now you're good. It won't expire.
So you have to check in?
So I was like, that defeats the whole purposes of purchasing this online. You now make me go back down there, and I might as well take the subway somewhere at that point. Wait, that's their plan.
Figured them out.
And also, MTA, don't give me change in gold coins when I get subway fares. I'm never going to use it.
Gold coins?
They give you gold coins, those like Sacagawea coins.
Yeah, the dollar coins.
The change always comes in gold coins.
What are you going to use that for?
Nothing.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to someone, and they're going to say, this is a quarter. Give me 4 more. Give me 3 more.
You know what? They're encouraging you to go to do Indian bingo, I think.
I think we already answered this last question, but what's the best place to eat here, around here?
Spokes for sure. Spokes, or Frogtown Brewery. And I feel like there's another brewery nearby here, too.
Yeah.
If you can't find it, Salazar has beer. Salazar is a great restaurant here, outdoor Mexican restaurant, right near the Rattlesnake Park entrance. If you go a little farther west on Riverside Drive, I like a place called Modern Eats. It's a newer coffee shop, and it's kind of near that Googie style diner, Astro.
Oh, right.
Which has been there since the 50s. That's another really cool place.
Fletcher's got a lot of good spots right there.
Rick's
is really good.
Rick's is really good.
Yeah, Rick's is great.
Rick's is called, their official name is Rick's Drive In and Out. Like, really? That's kind of clunky.
Yeah. They want to specify, please go.
Don't
pick
stay.
up the food and keep going.
Well, any other off-the-cuff questions?
You've made me want to walk, and I have to be at work soon, but I really want to go for a long walk now, and I'm in trouble.
I'm serious. Like, the book is going to become part of our deciding of what to do on the weekend sort of material, so it's great. I highly recommend the book.
I love it, and I learned things from you guys. You know, we're a community of trying. I think this is for people who are intellectually curious and want to really live their life to the fullest and the city to the fullest and take advantage of everything it has to offer. And I think we're just kind of wired to find those hidden gems and those places off the beaten path. It's just fun, and it makes you excited to get out and exercise.
Yeah.
So
kill two birds with one stone.
Exactly. Take a hike. Yeah. Take a walk.
And speaking of killing a bird, there's one right in front of us. Let's kill it.
Oh, and it's building its nest.
Yeah, it's got a.
That's not going to stop me. I'm still going to kill it.
Wow.
There you go.
See? Nature.
What an amazing thing.
Yeah. Now we're going to get bit by rattlesnakes.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.